NFC. All right, news of the day yesterday in the NFL. Steelers wide receiver DK Metcalf was suspended for 2 games without pay for what the league states was conduct detrimental to the NFL for initiating a physical confrontation with a fan during Sunday's win at Detroit. Metcalf plans to appeal the suspension, a source told ESPN's Adam Schefter, with the hearing set for today, and could have $45 million in future guaranteed money voided if the appeal is unsuccessful. The prospect of a multi-game suspension is a big blow to the Steelers' offense that has rounded into form since Week 14. Over those last 3 games, Pittsburgh ranks in the top 10 in multiple offensive categories, including top 5 in expected points added and yards per play. So, Jason, how big of an absence would that be for Aaron Rodgers to not have DK Metcalf these final 2 games?
It's big. And I think if you only look at the stats, you'll say, all right, well, DK Metcalf's last 2 games, nothing jumps off the chart to you. But you go back to that Baltimore Ravens game where DK Metcalf had explosive play after explosive play, and then it forced the Ravens to play their defense differently, shading a safety over the top. You fast forward to this Lions game this past weekend. The Steelers are getting explosive runs from Warren and from Gainwell and those guys. Right. And a lot of times, all the players on the opposite side of the field align to where DK Metcalf is. So I think from an X's and O's standpoint, he impacts this offense tremendously because they don't have a ton of weapons. They don't have guys that can get down the field, guys that can dictate coverage from the defense. I think on the other side of it, from just a mojo standpoint and momentum of what this offense has been doing, that Courtney just mentioned, how they've played consistently the last few weeks. Well, now you're removing a player. Now in the locker room, you're saying for the next 1, maybe 2 games, depending upon what happens with the suspension, we're now missing our star player, the guy we traded for, the guy we gave a ton of money to, that we're expecting to be out there and win football games for us going into the playoffs. So I think it's a huge deal that he's not going to be out there for this offense, and specifically for Aaron Rodgers, a 42-year-old quarterback that is relying in key situations to throw the ball to DK Metcalf and for him to make plays.
I think we'll know a little bit more about the impact of this to see if the Ravens beat Green Bay. If the Ravens beat Green Bay Saturday night, well, then all of a sudden, if he gets a 1-game suspension, the Browns are feisty.
Absolutely.
They got a good
Division
defense. Sanders, they're competitive with Shedeur Sanders. They almost played well against Buffalo. That's a feisty team.
Yeah.
So and they hate Pittsburgh, as you just said, divisional game. So if the Ravens pulled off, and I don't think they're going to, but if they did beat the Packers on Saturday and he doesn't have Metcalf on Sunday, that is a jump ball kind of game.
Yeah.
And then they got to deal with the Ravens in Week 18, a team that gets a second life. That's dangerous too. And they usually split the Ravens and Steelers because they're usually pretty equal. They usually each win a game. So a lot of it, to me, the Metcalf thing, it's crazy. I want to see the game on Saturday night first because if the Ravens did beat Green Bay, then Pittsburgh, the Ravens are going to sit there and say, you know what, we can put some pressure on the Steelers. They're not going to have Metcalf for a game. They're in Cleveland. Cleveland beat Baltimore last year in Cleveland, if you remember correctly. So I think Saturday night game has a lot to do with the impact how it's going to have on the Pittsburgh offense.
Yeah, when you think about DK Metcalf, physicality is the first thing that goes to my mind, right? Is run after catch, all the different things that you do, blocking in the run game, to your point, having defenses shift to him. It's a big deal. And when you found your form, like the last few weeks, Pittsburgh bullied the bully, right? Like against Detroit, like they bullied them. I mean, they gave up. Their defense has done a really good job against some good backs here recently. They're kind of shutting it down. They're tightening it down. And you want your offense to be able to hold serve. Well, in that means physicality. And that's, again, what the Steelers have really done, whether it be with Gainwell or Warren the last couple of weeks. Yeah. Missing a piece like that, the cog in the wheel of DK, is a big deal. And don't minimize it. And getting suspended 2 games is a big deal. Now, if it takes the pressure off because the Ravens can't handle their own business, that's different, right? Because you ride out. But you don't want to stumble into the playoffs. Like, that's the other part. Like, as a team, you don't want to lose your momentum by losing one or possibly both those games because you don't got enough, and then try to catch fire in the playoffs. It doesn't typically work that way. So it's a big deal. The suspension is a big deal, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll hear more, obviously, today if that suspension's upheld, if it gets limited down to 1 game.
I would think, Jason and I think 1 game, right? We all think 1 game,
I do.
2 to 1.
I think they'll reduce it to 1, yeah.
Okay, so we'll update if there is anything that happens during the show on that. Why don't we stay in the AFC where the playoff picture seems to be as wide open as it's been in years. Dog, let's go to the wall here. I want you to stack up your contenders in the AFC.
Okay. Jeff, you know what my thing, fellas?
Oh, my word.
Jeff, you know the AFC playoff contenders, right?
Yeah, I know.
You know who's in? The Raiders didn't make it. The Colts are not going to make it. You understand it? Okay.
We got a 2% chance, dog.
2% chance. All right, here, number one. These are teams. It's wide open in the AFC.
Yeah.
You know, you got no more Holmes in there. It's why anybody could win in the AFC. So that's why we stacked them up from a three-way standpoint. So number 3 would be Pittsburgh. I don't think Pittsburgh can get to a Super Bowl. All right, I know they're going to get a home game. They're probably going to win the division. And Rodgers, we understand, and Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game in about 10 years.
Right.
So, but they're going to have a tough matchup with that 5 seed, maybe Buffalo. And I don't think Pittsburgh's winning 3 games. They're going to have to win 2 on the road. The home game, the 5-4 game, will be a hard game. I don't think Pittsburgh is going to the playoffs, so I'm going to put them they're going to the playoffs. Going to go far in the playoffs. I'll put them at tier 3.
Okay.
At tier 2, my team's in tier 2. It's a little different. I'm going to put Jacksonville and Houston. I'm going to put the AFC South there in the tier 2. Listen, I know Lawrence has played great, and I understand Cohen's done a great job, and they just beat Denver, so I understand that. I got to see Jacksonville do it in the postseason. Really? Number one, they do not have a good home field. That is not a scary place to play. They're not going to sell the game out, probably. The weather will be decent. That is not a tough place to play. So I am not going to go crazy on Jacksonville just yet. And they're going to be maybe a 2 seed in the AFC. But I'm still putting them in tier 2. And although the Texans have an excellent defense, they have a good defense. I didn't like what I saw against the Raiders. They can be a little – you were there. They can be a little up, and they were terrible offensively.
Terrible.
Their running game sometimes can be a little spotty. I don't even love the field goal kicker. So I'm going to put and they don't win. You never know what Houston does? They win 1 game, and they never win that second game. You know, they win the first game, the AFC South Saturday 4:30 game at 8 that we take. They win that game, and then the next week they get killed by somebody. So until I see them get to that championship level, I'm going to put them at number 2. All right, at tier 2. My tier 1 teams, I'm putting everybody else. You're going to say, geez, really 4? I can't separate them. They're going to get, I think, home field. They got the best defense in the AFC, and Peyton's won a Super Bowl. Yeah. You got New England. May was unbelievable. The pass he made to the kid who caught the touchdown at 24-20 reminded me of Manning to Manningham in the Super Bowl.
Williams,
that great the Williams catch. Remember the Manningham catch in Indianapolis, which won them the Super Bowl? Very similar. Mays, that was a tremendous 4th quarter. He's a great coach. He's due for some luck, too. Ryan Tannehill's not his quarterback anymore. He's due for some luck. Patriots are dangerous, and they could be a 2 seed. I think you got to put the Chargers in this mix. Really? First off, they can still be the 1 seed.
Right.
Both Denver and the
Remember,
Chargers.
if the Chargers beat Houston Saturday afternoon and then beat Denver the last game of the year, they win the division.
That's
because they got tiebreaker.
Yeah.
They beat the Broncos twice. So if LA wins 2 games in a row, they could be the 1. Depends what the Patriots do. They could be the 1 seed. So I got to put them in tier 1 when they still have a chance to get to that level. And Herbert is due. Last year, if you remember correctly, against Houston, he threw 5 interceptions. He was terrible in the game. He is due to have a couple of good playoff games. He's too good. He's had a great year. And they got a good defense. You've done them.
No doubt about it.
And then a lot of people feel this way, and I do too. There's no Mahomes. They're playing well. Their defense it's okay, but their short passing game. The running back is all of a sudden one of the best backs in football. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, if you're asking me now for a pick in the Super Bowl, I'm taking Bills-Rams. Wow. I think the Bills, even if they don't win the division, they're the only team here that I think can win 3 games on the road. And remember, the sweet spot is the 5 seed. Yeah. Because if you're the 5 seed, if you're Buffalo, you go to Pittsburgh in game 1. They've already beat Pittsburgh there, and they beat them badly in the second half. And I don't want to make Rodgers mad at me, but let's face it. Pittsburgh is a beatable team. They're the worst team out. I think we all agree. Jeff, you agree?
I do.
The worst team out of the 7?
I agree.
Okay. Courtney, you agree?
I mean, if they run the ball like they did in Pittsburgh, which was
they were tremendous.
Most rushing yards ever put up in that stadium, they can win
without their starting tackle.
Yeah.
But don't you guys just think that maybe it's Buffalo's time? You're not going to do enough.
I don't know. Listen, this right. If their offense gets right, they could be. But if their offense put like it did the other day, they're down in 3 from.
And they have been playing better.
Yeah.
To that point.
Yeah.
My issue with Buffalo, when you look at this AFC, they no doubt about it have the best quarterback that you have the trust in going to the playoffs. My issue that when you look at these teams, they may have the worst supporting cast around their quarterback.
For sure.
When you talk about defenses of what's on this list, when you talk about wide receiver core, what's on this list, yes, they can run the hell out of the football, but that's my fear. Surprised that you said you need to see them win in the playoffs, but you put them in tier 1 without any doubt, and you felt like Herbert is just due when Jacksonville is maybe beat them in a play like that.
That's a fair point. That's a very fair point.
Am I wrong for thinking that the Chargers and all the offensive line injuries, I know they've been able to get through it so far. Does that come to a head in the postseason?
You fear the matchups,
yeah.
right? You fear that they're going against potentially the Chargers, where maybe whoever they're possibly going, the Chargers may be going to Pittsburgh, and now you have Highsmith, you have Herbig. If Watt's able to come back, like now you have to deal with those guys, and they found a way to patch it together. But
I think, like and Courtney, to your point, I think anytime you start talking about these defenses and even the Denver defense, and you start talking, is what's their plan? Like all these matchups are really what's going to make or break these playoffs. It's not, no team has a runaway, right? Everybody has warts on, and so, but I'm like you. I would say I would have put Jacksonville. I would have switched those two, in my opinion, for as well as Jacksonville's playing right now.
Jeff, how you feel about this logo being up here in tier 1?
I don't see a horseshoe. There's no horseshoe on here.
I'm surprised you didn't put yourself in tier 1.
No,
Just find a way to get yourself in there.
Remember
there you go.
Remember one thing about the Pats.
Coming up, could the Bears and the Packers be legit